Welcome to the Heartcore Hustle, the ultimate video podcast all about business, biceps, and spirituality, featuring incredible guest interviews from the world's top authors, entrepreneurs, investors, musicians, motivational speakers, and more. Feel free to subscribe, and we'll see you on the other side. Hi, Felicia Pizzonia here. We have a very special guest today, an incredible human. He is originally from Amsterdam and grew up in that city and went through some trials and tribulations, was homeless, became a self-made millionaire through the network marketing industry. Before that, he actually was a policeman in the red light district in Amsterdam, and is now a very successful digital currency investor, real estate investor, and is also unbelievably spiritual. He meditated with the Dalai Lama, is a big believer and practices Kriya Yoga, and now resides for the last 15 years plus in Monaco. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Mr. Henk Diepbrink. Hi, Henk. So Henk, tell us a little bit about how you started and in a nutshell, how you went from being homeless in in Amsterdam to creating an unbelievable life for yourself and you're a self-made millionaire. How did you go from zero to millions?
Yeah, now I had a very interesting life. I was born in a family where I was much smarter than my parents. And so I could go to the gymnasium, but I came from a low-class family, so I spoke only Dutch, and I spoke the lower-class Dutch. And my mother made my own clothes, so I went to this gymnasium, and there were a lot of very rich children from rich parents, very famous in the Netherlands. They all were brands, Lacoste. So I was 12 years old, and that discriminated me a lot because I had this funny clothes, which was made by my mother. And also, I spoke this dialect, this Amsterdam dialect. But I was very good in football, so they had to accept me for the football team, and I started to speak more higher class Dutch. And I was 17 years old, and I came home, and my mother decided to leave my father and took my brother with him and with her. And that was the situation that I left alone with my father, and my father start drinking, and the whole story started from there. So I ended up living on the streets in Amsterdam. That's correct. So my whole world fell apart, because I thought I'm going to be a very good professional football player. You guys call it soccer, we call it football, with Ajax in Amsterdam, or go to the university, become a dentist or an engineer or something like that. But my whole world fell apart. And I blamed, of course, the whole world. I blamed my parents, I blamed the society, and I ended up in the streets in Amsterdam, as you just said. And there I had a very interesting personal development, because I start from blaming everybody else, taking responsibility myself for what's happening in life. And that was the beginning of much more going on in my life. That was a very big step to do. Take responsibility for your own life and not blame other people.
Excellent. And Henk, can you tell us and share with us, please, how you got your big break and generated your first $1 million?
Yeah, I did a lot. So I went, believe it or not, I went to the police in Amsterdam, but I was not happy with the police in Amsterdam. And while I was with the police in Amsterdam, I had two side businesses. It was a burglary. At that time, the police went to a burglary. Then, if it was in your house, Felicia, then you know me as this policeman. And then later in the evening, I found you back, and I sold you an alarm system, because you were very, open to buy an alarm system. And I also started to have a private detective company. So after 5 years and doing that, I figured out I'm much more maybe for doing something in business. And I decided to become a fashion designer. Now, I have something very unusual. I think I can do anything. So most people, they are the other way around. They are afraid to do something. I think I can do anything, and then I prove myself something that I cannot do. So, for example, I cannot sing. I proved that to myself. So I became the youngest fashion designer in the Netherlands. I was all in all the magazines. I took a PO box in Milano. At that time, there was no internet. And I created a fashion and Condotti Moda, was called, like the Via Condotti in Rome, or a very famous family, Pope family. And I even told the press in the Netherlands that we are the décadents from this famous fashion house, Condotti Moda in Milano. And I even had the consul, the Italian consul, with a police escort to one of my first shows. And all the celebrities, all the Dutch celebrities were there. I was 28 years old. I was every week on TV and in the magazine. But I was focused on the design and the production, but I had no clue how to sell it. So I left it to another guy, and he totally blew it, and I lost all my money. And then I decided I have to study marketing. So I was never studying for the diploma. I was studying for the knowledge. So I started in the evening studying marketing, and I came on an advertisement about a whole new form of marketing called network marketing. And I went to, how you say it, a holiday home from two Americans near Amsterdam. And they gave me the worst presentation I ever had in my life. But I was very interested in this marketing method. And so I started to do that. I was with that company not successful. With the second company after that, I became very, very successful. I built even in the 90s when Hong Kong was from the UK. I built youth organizations, sales organizations in Hong Kong and in China, all over the world. And I became one of the best persons, I can say that, in network marketing. I spoke for 10, 20, 30,000 people in stadiums all over the world in 3-4 different languages. I wrote a book about personal self-development, create your life, ways to material development. And I was so smart to took the money and invested in other things. But I think this is how I came to my first million. That was the question.
Excellent. Thank you, Henk. And you and I have a lot of discussions since we're very good friends for over a decade now. We discuss a lot about money and the monetary system. And you opened up a world to me with a couple of digital currencies that had ICOs and other opportunities. So let's share with our viewers and listeners your perspective on the monetary system.
Okay. Yeah, that's going to take a long time. I think the monetary system going to collapse. And a lot of people are very shocked by that maybe, but since 1880, we had 4 different monetary systems. Now, the first one was totally based 100% on gold. And then from the First World War till the second one, we had one who was also based on gold, but on the dollar. And then we had one, Bretton Woods, after the Second War in 1944, based on the dollar. And that was based on gold. And that's the reason why we have now this currency, the dollar, the US dollar, as the world currency. But, America joined the Second World War a few years later than Europe. So in Europe, all the production was focused on military, on arms, on bombs and things like that. So Europe bought a lot of normal goods from America and they paid them in gold. So America had a huge amount of gold. And with Bretton Woods, they decided, we're going to back up this dollar with 40% of gold, and every currency going to be backed up then by the dollar. But General de Gaulle, he was maybe not such a good-looking guy, but he was very smart, and he thought, I think America printed much more money than their gold, so he started to ask his gold back. So America, because at that time, a dollar was also on the dollar, by the way. For a dollar, you could have physical gold. It was like a voucher to get gold. It was backed up by a store of value with his gold. So they sent the dollars to America, to Fort Knox, and they started to send the gold. And then Milton Keynes, the very famous Nobel Prize winner, he said to Nixon in 1971, we have to go from the gold standard, because we will end up having no gold anymore because we printed much more money than we have gold. So that is the 4th monetary system we are in now. So based on debt, there is not a value of store of value. And from that moment forward, we get huge inflation because now the central banks can print money without, out of nothing. That's what they literally do. And that's why, you get this huge inflation. I can go into that later if you ask me how they do it, because this is the biggest secret in the world. You're not learning that on a university. You're not learning that on a school. The press is not talking about this. But this is the reason, for example, why you probably have seen in Canada also what's happening in France. It's almost like the second French Revolution is going on because people are working very hard, but have no money to live. They can hardly pay the bills. And the real reason is this. If you have $1 and I printed out of nothing $9, your dollar is worth 10 cents. And that's what's happening in the world. It's called inflation. So we have to go to a new monetary system because now, let me say this, people in politics, they promise everything. And if you have a gold standard, you cannot do that because there is no money. But if you have no gold standard, and now what you do, you print a lot of money. So I can promise you anything. You vote on me. I go to the central banks, or my department of my financial department, they give an IOU, a bond. The bond is sent to the central bank, and the central bank is printing out of nothing the money in the computer, and suddenly we have so much trillion more in circulation. And the banks, the normal banks, are doing that themselves also. That's called the fractional bank loaning system. They also create money out of nothing. We'll talk about that later. And that's what's going on. And that's why you see all these countries have unbelievable debt. And it's not, they will never pay back the debt. It's not possible. America, as I said, 22 trillion. I think America have over 200 trillion because there's a lot of off balance. France have 3 trillion debt. And now that's why they're so afraid, especially Donald Trump. When the rates goes up, everything gonna collapse. But that's maybe another question you will have because I can keep going.
Okay, very good. No, that's amazing, Henk. And can you nutshell and share with us? You're now one of the partners in CrowdBridge in Switzerland. Share with us what CrowdBridge is about, and perhaps even nutshell and share with us why is digital currency the way to go?
Yeah. No, I'm that's serious. I will be the CEO of Sirius AG in Switzerland, and CrowdBridge Global is another company where I'm the CCIO, the Chief Coaching and Investment Officer. They tokenize real estate, so every person can now be in real estate and get a part of the rent income as a residual income. That is fantastic.
Amazing.
Yeah, and Sirius is doing STO, security token offering, so not ICOs because there's a lot of cowboys there. And we have a totally compliance with the FINMA, the Swiss authorities, and 3 Swiss banks because Switzerland wants to be the number 1 country in cryptocurrency. And I think I figured out a way how to invest in blockchain because a lot of investors, they don't want to invest in cryptocurrency, they want to invest in blockchain technology. But to answer that question, why cryptocurrency is the way to go forward, you must understand there are a lot of what I call asset cycles, and I have to go a little bit back to the story I had before, and then you see the bubbles. By the central banks infusing so much money, you can say it's like heroin, in the system, you have all kinds of bubbles. You have a real estate bubble, because it's different between the price of the house and the value of the house. It's called inflation. You have the stock exchange bubble because most of those companies, they get money for almost nothing and no interest. So they buy their own stock exchange, their own stock back. And that's why they blow up the price of the stock. And, you have a huge bubble, also in credit loan for students. So all kinds of bubbles are created by this printing of money. But very unique is now we also have a bond bubble. The bonds are now for 32 years in a bull market, and I think everything gonna collapse and not happened before. So the stock exchange gonna collapse, the bonds gonna collapse, and a lot of people gonna go in bonds as a safe haven. That also gonna collapse. I just sold my penthouse in Miami because Miami is going down 1% a month now. It's unbelievable. So I also expect worldwide, and also in Toronto, I already have seen prices are going down. So we are, I think, I don't want to be negative, we are on the front of a huge, I think, depression. I'm not even looking at a recession. I think, the 2008 Great Recession was never over. We are over. We are in the eye of the storm. I always say we are the Titanic, and we already hit the iceberg, and the water is coming into the ship, but the party is still going on. Everybody is still dancing, and the music is playing, but the water is going in the ship. So if you know this, that a wise man told me you always have to buy cheap and sell expensive, right? So you have to look which asset classes are cheap. Physical gold, physical silver, cryptocurrency.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think a lot of, when the panic starts, a lot of people don't know how to buy physical gold and physical silver. And then they go into cryptocurrency because they can manage that, and in the Bitcoin. And for that reason, I expect a bull market in cryptocurrency. That's the answer to your question.
Fantastic. And can we talk a little bit about your practices? I know you're big on Kriya Yoga and meditation and visualization. Why do you feel that's a necessity to achieve success?
Because if you understand the truth about life, then you understand that this life is an illusion. It's only there for the time you are in this body that you are alive. So what is the truth? My definition of truth is something what always was there and always will be there. So for that definition, with that definition only, you yourself are not really true. You're an illusion. So if you want to know the truth, if you want to know yourself, if you want to know who you really are, you have to, and you see that in all the different scriptures. You see that in the Bible, they call it the 10 Commandments. I call it the 10 Recommendations. And also in other scriptures, you have to think in a certain way, you have to act in a certain way. I cannot come home, beat my wife up, beat the dog, lie to somebody, kill somebody, and then, start to meditate. I cannot do that. You see that also in Buddhism and all the other. You have to think in a certain way, you have to act in a certain way. And the only reason is, and that's also why the 10 Commandments are there, I think you're not coming in hell, although maybe you come in hell, because if you cannot stop your thoughts anymore, that's the hell. If you are the slave of your thoughts and your emotions, now you are in hell. Now you need therapy. Now you need alcohol. Now you need drugs. And if you become the master of your thoughts, and that is where meditation comes in. Through meditation, to focus, you can become master of your thought, and with that, the master of your destiny. But you cannot do that when you are cheating and lying and beating people up and killing people. So that's also why all those people who went to war, they all have problems. It is exactly the reason why they have all those problems. So the truth is, this is for me the most important thing in life, spirituality. But I decided, I was many times in India, as you know. I stayed 1 week with the Dalai Lama, and I studied Hinduism. I was also in Rishikesh, in the Golden Temple with the Sikh. I think this is really the most important thing in life, to discover who you really are.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that, Henk. And can you tell us a little bit about why you feel it is our birthright to live an abundant life, particularly monetary success, accumulating or earning money? Why is that important?
Yeah, the funny thing is, do you know, Felicia, do you know the movie The Matrix?
Yes.
Yes. Well, what is the Matrix? The Matrix is people have a life, but that's an illusion, because in reality they are let's say, in a coma, and they are programmed or used by machines. I say it in my way, but most people don't know that. They are slaves of those machines, and some of them, there's a second group, they're even happy they are slaves. And then you have the slave masters who are working for the machines. And then you have Nero and all the other people who are escaping that and try to to tell everybody, hey, listen, this is not real. You have to escape.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's exactly happening in our world because
Mm-hmm.
the monetary system is created to create slaves. Because if you work for money, you know, then you are like in a slave situation because I'm getting a salary. With the salary, I pay my bills. I can do a little bit of things. But the slave masters, I just said to you,
Mm-hmm.
they create money out of nothing. They don't work for the money. They create it out of nothing. And then you have people like me who came out of this matrix, who have totally freedom in their life. They have time and money in their life. And then you have people who are also very happy that they're a slave because they're not even aware that they are that. So that is what I try to explain to people, that you have to free yourself because, I even think that before, and now I take it really very deep thoughts about that. Before, slaves were owned by a person, but I think the current slaves, they are free. They think they are free because if you think you are free and you can go on holiday for 2 weeks, then you produce better. So they let the slaves free, but they made them, enslaved them through the monetary system. Look what's happening in France nowadays. That's also the reason, I think, why they voted for Donald Trump, for that feeling. But a lot of people don't know they don't understand this. But I think this is really the situation. So back to a normal monetary system like we always had, because we have not a free economic system, and we have not really democracy, because if you manipulate the currency, how can you have free market system? There is not, because they print so much money. Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan should be broke, but they are saved by a bailout paid to the taxpayer. So private debt became public debt, and all the taxpayers have to pay that back. So we print more money. So they rob you through paying the taxes, but they also rob you by printing more money through the inflation. So it's a totally slave system.
Interesting. Truly amazing. Yeah. So, Henk, we know that knowledge is potential power. You have to take that knowledge and apply it. There's a lot of geniuses out there and knowledgeable people that die broke because they didn't apply the knowledge. So tell us, in your opinion, what are the top 3 things to achieve success in all aspects of life? What does someone have to do?
That is. I always say you need 4 things.
4 things, okay.
First, you have to have a burning desire to change your life. If you are totally happy what's happening now, then you're not motivated to do anything. What is okay? There are people who are happy what they're doing or with their life, and that's fantastic, And the second thing is that you must also be coachable. You have to learn, you have to educate yourself. But I'm not talking about university or
formal education.
Formal education, exactly. Not that you should not do that. It's okay, but it's focused to become a slave. It's focused to get a job, and job stands for just over broke. You get only more money, but you're more in debt. And so that's the second. And the third one is you have to put the hours in. You have willing to work. You can say, hey, listen, I'm a burning desire. I want to do this and this in my life. I'm very coachable. But today I have to watch this movie. Tomorrow we have football. We have to see football. And then I have this party. It's not, you have to sacrifice. No pain, no gain. It's also going about biceps here, right? This program. So biceps, and then the fourth thing, you have to have a positive attitude, because a lot of people gonna tell you it will not work. But the reason why they tell that to you is they call it cognitive dissonance, because you're a mirror of them. So they don't want you to be successful, because then, they are a loser if you become successful. If you become free, they are a loser. So they will tell you, hey, you're crazy, you'll never do that, cut your hair, take a job.
Amazing. Well, it's like Deepak Chopra's book, The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success, one of my favorites next to your book, Create Your Life, Henk. And one of the spiritual success secrets, or laws rather, is to only share your desires with people that share the same desires as you and for you. And in my humble opinion, there might be one person on the planet. So I like to recommend to only keep your desires very close to your heart and share them with God, the universe, or whatever it is you believe in, and just feel it, because we know that the heart is the most powerful organ of the body, and feel it in the present moment through gratitude. So, Henk, I have a couple more questions for you. Since I've known you for a very long time and you are one of my favorite humans on the planet, one of the things I like about you is that you have this unbelievable zest for life and enthusiasm. We know that the word enthusiasm comes from the Greek word theos, godlike energy. And we've done a few business meetings together, and people gravitate towards you and love you and respect you because of your enthusiasm and the great energy that you exude. So what I'd like to know is, when you were poor and didn't have a lot of money, how were you? Are you a different person now that you have achieved multiples of millions? How do you feel?
That's a very good question, and thank you for asking that. My mother, who's 85, is very proud on me, and also friends from in Amsterdam from when I was young, that I not really changed so much, or I changed in another way. I changed in experience, I changed in knowledge, but not as a person. I'm still not arrogant, or here in Monaco we have a lot of very arrogant people. They're very rich, billionaires, and they're rich because they got the companies or the money from the parents, and they treat people who are working. Because here in Monaco, you have people like 30,000 people living here, 4,000 born here, and you have 30,000 people coming in from Italy and from France just to serve people with money, because they cannot live here, right? So they go back. And everybody likes me always where I come in a restaurant, because I treat them like equal. Now, there's another reason why I'm doing that, because I'm doing Kriya Yoga for a long, long, long time, as you know. And in Kriya Yoga, which is not a religion, it's a scientific approach to come on the enlightened awareness level. You say we are living in God, so everything around us is God. There is no separation, and God is in us. That is our spirit. So that means if you meet other people, you meet God. So if you meet God, you should be nice to God. So that's why I am always nice to other people. So I'm exactly the same. I am not having patience for that is one of my weaknesses, for stupid people, although they cannot help that. But that's one of my weaknesses, and I'm very much I would say I have no patience. And
That's okay.
For people who are not honest, I cannot bear it also much. But I still love them because they're still God, but they on the awareness level. So you have no good and bad people. You have people on different awareness levels. That's how you.
Yes, well said. And I know you don't judge, you're just observing, and you're aware of these various awareness levels of that different people have. So that's very beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. So this concludes our interview, Henk. And if our viewers or listeners would like to check out more information on Henk Diepbrink, it's www.HENKD like Denise, IEP like Peter, B like Bob, RINK.com, HenkDiepbrink.com. You can get coached directly by Henk, and you can actually contact me for further information at Felicia@FeliciaPisonia.com. So Henk, thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to having you in our next episode on the monetary system and how to invest in digital currency. Do you have anything you'd like to share before we go?
Yes, I want to thank you very much for taking the time to interview me, and I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year and a lot of love, because we had not enough love on this planet. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Henk. Thank you for joining us, Henk. That was Henk Diepbrink sharing great information on life, success, and the monetary system. And you could check him out at henkdiepbrink.com. This is the Heartcore Hustle, the ultimate video podcast on business, biceps, and spirituality.